dance is a beautiful opportunity in so many ways to like really grow within yourself. Of course, you're going to grow technically and soundly, physically as a dancer, but there are so many beautiful opportunities to grow as a person and to take them, to not like allow the emotional side of the dance community to stop you from dancing, but instead stand up to it, to like turn it back on yourself and find a way to keep moving forward. I mean, it's because it's a beautiful opportunity. Like dancing, our community, our salsa community, salsa bachata community. I mean, there's so many things about it that can be so beautiful if you can get past the rest.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Hey, hey, hey. All right. So I am now on the line with a Miss Leah Patterson, who is a transformation and wellness mentor. You are a salsa dance instructor. You are a green witch, and you are a quantum physics nerd. Is that correct?
Yes, I am actually all of those.
That's quite the intro. So you are the owner and operator of Leah's School of Latin Dance, which
Mhm,
offers a plethora of Latin dance classes.
mhm.
Um, you were born, if I'm not mistaken, in Chicago, Illinois, but you currently live in Little Rock, Arkansas. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Hey, sure enough, sure enough. You have some more things, and I just throw it in there. So you are a chemical engineer.
Mhm.
You have your aesthetics license, and you worked as a holistic esthetician.
Yes. Mhm.
I'm definitely gonna have to ask you about that. And you also have your own makeup line called Move Makeup. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh man, how are you doing today, Miss Leah?
I'm doing pretty well. It makes it sound like, oh my gosh, this woman does like 1,000 things.
I mean, that's very awesome. It's very impressive. So I definitely want to ask you about all of this, but I guess to start this out, I would love to hear about your childhood in Chicago. How long were you there, and like, were you born and raised there, or what happened in Chicago?
Yes, I'm born and raised in Chicago, there until 17. Yep, because I went to Howard University at 17. Mhm.
So that's where you got your chemical engineering degree, right?
Yep.
Hey, sure enough. So tell me this then. Going back to Chicago, I guess what are some of your fond memories of living in Chicago? Growing up as a child.
Hmm. That's a very interesting take on my childhood. Um, Probably my fondest memories have to do with in two places. One, growing up in Hyde Park, because I grew up in Hyde Park. And so at that time, especially Hyde Park was a very diverse neighborhood. Like we had like I grew up in a very like culturally diverse world. So my very first memories of like taking a pottery class with like a German boy and somebody from Nigeria and a Lithuanian person. Like, I just grew up in a very multicultural space, and that's my first imprint. That's like what I remember as my first experiences. So there was that in my childhood, like early childhood, and then in my high school days, I was like a diehard B girl, hip hop B girl. So I just remember all of our like, B girl ways. Like we used to go to the lake and watch them like do ciphers and like have the cardboard box and be breaking on the box and all that kind of stuff. We were tagging and all, like just that whole hip hop life. Like we lived it as much as we could because we were sheltered high school kids as well. But as much as we could, hang out with the kids that were really living that life, we did.
Okay, that's awesome. That's really cool to hear. Let me ask you this thing. Since you already spoke on it, I guess how important was music growing up, and then more so like in your household, or I guess yeah, in your youth, how important was music?
In my household, it wasn't. Like my parents are very traditional. My mom was she was a nurse, but she didn't become a nurse until we were like well into like I was maybe in high school or early, like maybe like seventh, eighth grade. My stepfather is a police officer, so that they didn't have those kind of values. They just wanted to expose us to as much as they could. So for me, music was really important to me. But at that time, I was very much into classical music. So I played the viola, and I played the viola from high school on. And there's stories there as well. But I played for a bunch of years until I was about 26, and I put it down, and I picked it back up at 40, which is like 2 years, 2 or 3 years ago. But which is a promise I made to myself back then. But so I was like that weird, nerdy little girl that was like 5, 6, 7, 8, listening to classical music on the radio and like trying to like decipher what instruments they were and what was playing. So I went to a high school that had a music program, and so it was a Catholic girls all girls high school, and that's where I got the opportunity to actually play an instrument. But up until then, I didn't have the opportunity. I just loved classical music. I was a weird chick.
Now I get you. I understand that. Oh, okay. I was gonna ask you. So I guess going back to that time period, do you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yeah, like I've always wanted to be in the healing arts. So when I was little, like I wanted to be a doctor, because that was my reference point for that. And then from there, I actually decided upon chemical engineering in high school, like right, like my probably like my junior year, and I decided upon it because I wanted to do something that was practical. I loved science, like, and I really loved chemistry. Like I think of chemistry as like God's art. And if like physicists think like, and other like electrical engineers, they will fight me on it. But I feel like chemistry is God's art. Like I said, electrical engineers think it's physics. But so I really wanted to do something in the sciences, and I really loved chemistry, but I didn't want to be in a lab all day long and only working with like just like my one tiny little problem that's a big of a part of a bigger problem, but I never actually maybe see the full extent of like my tiny little bit of work. Like I felt like engineers like solve different problems every day, and they work with people and they interacted with people. So that's why I chose engineering over just being a chemist.
Okay, so no. I think I understand what you're saying. um, I'm very curious about this. I've heard many things about Chicago. And sometimes not the best things. So I'm very curious. I guess what was your experience like growing up in Chicago? What was that? How did that city treat you?
So I don't have the experience that TV shows of Chicago, or that the really negative viewpoint of like, oh, it's very, very violent and it's very um unsafe, like, and that could be for a number of reasons. One, my parents made sure that we were very sheltered. We were very like disciplined, um but then also Chicago, this is what I tell a lot of people. Chicago is absolutely probably the most segregated city I've ever been in, but in the sense that it is the most segregated city, there are just as many wealthy neighborhoods that are African American or Polish or Puerto Rican or Lithuanian and so on and so forth, as there are poor neighborhoods that are Lithuanian, Polish, Puerto Rican, African American, as there are middle class neighborhoods that are just the same. So everyone stays in their neighborhood, in their area, but in terms of like the socioeconomic situations, they are evenly spread across the city. It's just that everybody stays in their area, So, so it's not that all the Black people in Chicago are poor and in the hood and struggling. You know what I mean? It's just that for whatever reason, that's what gets the most airplay. That's what gets the most like you know, press time, all that kind of stuff. But it's now what I will say is that Chicago is a very fast city, and it's a very you are there is a hardened an aspect of hardness that comes from living in Chicago. and being in Chicago. It could be because it's so dang cold. I mean, life is really fast. You're moving, and everybody's like, hey, I got this, like, I got an hour to hang out with you, and then I got to go over here and do that, and then I got 30 minutes to do this, and then I got to get on the train. That's going to take me like 45 minutes, and then I got to go over here. So people are on, I mean, they're moving, so there is no like, I'm just chilling and just kind of like lazy kind of, progressions of time in Chicago. And people are not like that, the niceties that happen in the South don't happen in Chicago. Like if somebody says hi to you on the street, you're looking around to see who they're trying to distract you from. Like is somebody about to roll up and try to like steal something from you or take something, so that was something that that I had to get used to, living in the South and just slower cities. So there is something like that being outside of Chicago and noticing my tendencies. I kind of recognize like, okay, there is a bit of like, that I have from being from Chicago, but it's not in the same way that I feel like the media and people may try to portray it, that like everybody's just like hard and it's just, a tough life. And it's just, like it's not quite just that. Like it is a very diverse city. It's just a very segregated city, you know?
I understand. I definitely understand. I want to.
Psst, hey kid, come here. Hey, if you could like and subscribe for the channel, that'd be amazing. Let's get back to the show.
I want to ask you this real quick, and I don't want to get like too much into like your life, but I heard you a couple times bring up that you were sheltered as a child. I'm very curious to hear, being an adult now, looking back on your childhood, how do you think that affected the person you are today? If you could like put that into words.
Oh yeah, because I've thought about it a ton. Like that's one of my strong points and negative points is I think I can think circles into squares into triangles. So most definitely, uh, the way my parents raised us, they wanted to make sure that we had certain opportunities and that we didn't have to deal with certain things that they had to deal with, when they were growing up. So, and I look now when I look compared to myself, it's kind of like everybody has that moment where you're like, oh, wow, everyone didn't grow up like me. Everyone didn't have the same exposure that I had to these different things. And, my parents made sure we went to really good schools. I went to a magnet academy, a language academy. We went to Catholic school, so they, and I actually had a conversation with my stepfather just recently about that, about like, that was his whole thing. Like, I need to make sure that they're exposed to as much as possible and they go to the best schools that we can get them into. And those simple directives really made a huge difference in what I always thought was possible. So there was certain things that I did not think were not possible, like going to an all girls Catholic high school. I mean, there's a lot of things we can say about Mother McCauley because I went to Mother McCauley, but the idea that I couldn't do something because I was a girl never crossed my mind. It has never been a part of my, like, it's never been something I had to get over, So, there's certain things that I've realized that have absolutely made a difference in just the mental state of what I did and didn't have to work through getting over, you know?
Okay, I definitely understand that then. So yeah, so you're growing up in Chicago. Um, and, you said you were big into the b-boy scene, the hip hop scene, correct? Were you
Yeah.
and you said you were a violinist, viola.
Yeah.
Were you, well, is that what it is, a violist? Is that what you would call it?
Yeah.
Okay, a violist. Excuse me. um, were you, I guess, were you dancing at the time? Did you grow up dancing at all, or but I guess hip
No.
hop dance?
No, 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 no. So I did not have any confidence in my physical skills at all. Like I grew up, so now, so the positive and negatives of how your parents raise you. So my sister and my brother were very athletic, and I was good at school. I was good at books and smart, So they kind of raised us in those ways. And then I was really shy. Like I didn't like to be on teams and things like that. I didn't want to like I just couldn't handle that pressure, so so I didn't do a lot of physical stuff at all. Like, I mean, I was in after school dance programs and things like that, but they were after school programs where dance was a part of it. So I loved to dance. Like, and we had house music growing up. So like in grammar school, we had house music. So I was always dancing at the house parties, like that. Like, I mean, I love to dance, but did I think I was good at dancing? No. Did I think it was something that I could pursue? No. It was just like my self-expression. So, um, yeah, I forgot what what the question was, but hopefully that answered it.
I mean, yeah, a little bit. See, you didn't really grow up dancing. That wasn't a part of your childhood, not really.
Oh yeah, no. So dancing was not a part of my childhood at all. I
Okay,
didn't start
okay.
dancing until I was in college, and I didn't start like really dancing a whole lot until I graduated, like the year I graduated.
Okay. Um, so I guess I'm very curious to hear, you kind of spoke on your childhood. So you graduate high school, and did you know you were going to college? Like, did you know that was your goal at that time?
There were no other options. Like that was not an option in our family. It was like you graduate from high school and you go to college. Yeah. So gap year and all that kind of stuff didn't exist in my mind. It was like, oh, which college am I going to? Not like, am I going to go to college?
Hey, shut up. I understand that. I will say I almost went to Howard myself, and then I saw the tuition prices. But I would love to hear about your time at Howard. What was it like? What was that experience like for you?
So I got a full ride, which is probably the reason why I was able to go. It actually was because I got a tuition scholarship to University of Chicago, but because I got a full ride to Howard, I was able to kind of say, I'm gonna go to Howard.
That's
Nobody
awesome.
can
That's
argue.
such a blessing. Yeah.
Really a blessing in many ways because for me, Howard was an amazing experience that I needed to have as an African American young person because part partially because I grew up in such a multicultural space. Um, my grandmother felt like I needed African American experience, because I had grown up always being the only Black person or one of three Black people, So and that was my experience, that was just my life experience. Um, so Howard is a place where either you love it or you hate it. There are not many people. I haven't met anybody that like is like, it was all right. Most people are like, it was awesome, it's great. And most were like, I hated it. I had to like transfer. So I loved it. It was an amazing experience. It was like I grew up so much, and I really developed into like the core of who I am in a lot of ways at Howard.
I definitely understand that. I definitely do. And you were right in the heart of DC, so that's quite the experience.
Yes, very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I remember I went to Howard, and I think right across the street, like where Howard is, I think like right across the street was like the hood. I'm pretty sure it's like right there in the middle.
Back up in the middle of the hood. Yep.
um so yeah, so you go to Howard, and um did you go in thinking chemical engineering, or did
Yeah.
you know? Okay.
hmm
Sure enough.
I chose my major, so I've never been undecided like that. Like I said, I just didn't have those kind of options. Like that just didn't cross my mind. It was like you're gonna know what you're doing before you get there.
I
And that
understand.
kept changing my mind. Like when people were like, "Oh, I like have 5 different majors," like that just wasn't in my reality. It was like you said you're gonna do chemical engineering, you're gonna do chemical engineering,
I understand that definitely. So yeah, you get to Howard, and then you kind of spoke on it earlier. You said that you didn't start dancing until, was it the first year after college, or was it that first year of college? Would you say?
Oh no, when I graduated from college. So in 1999 is when I like really started going out dancing and hanging out and things like that. Like I learned the dance my sophomore year. There was a summer program. I did a summer program at Cornell, and there were some students there that were from Trinidad, of all places. And so they taught me how to dance salsa, like what the basic steps were. I have no idea if it really was salsa or not. Now that looking back, I don't know. But they said, but it's like this is salsa. So, but no one at Howard was trying to go to a salsa club with me. Like, so when I went back, for my junior year, nobody was like trying to go to salsa club. So finally, after I graduated in 99, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go by myself. I don't care. I'm going to go find the places where they dance this music, where they play this music, and I'm just going to go. And that's what I did.
Okay, so wait, tell me this real quick. So you graduate from Howard, and do you go back to Chicago, or like what happens for you?
No, I spent I spent 2 years, 2 more years there in DC.
Okay, so no, so I'm actually in Richmond, Virginia, which is maybe 2 hours from DC. So I'm not far from you at all.
Hey, cool.
I'm not far from DC. Yeah, exactly. So I've been in DC multiple
Yeah.
times, and DC for one is a black city for sure, and two, it has a wonderful dance scene. I don't
It
know if you've
does.
been back recently. Yeah, it's got a really cool dance scene. So
It
I'm
was
very
pretty
curious.
cool when I lived there. Yeah.
Hey, so yeah, so I'm very curious to hear. I guess you said that you wanted to, after you graduated, you wanted to pursue it yourself and everything. Do you remember where you were going to, where you started to take classes at?
Oh, I never took classes. I was not a class person at all. I wasn't taking any classes.
So you just
It
went
was,
straight to socials?
yeah, I just went to socials. Like it was my free, like I just was like, I need to be free. And the music is what drove me. I wanted to go and hear this music. And so I just went to the club. I was like, oh, they play it here? Okay, I'm gonna go there. So I went to Lucky. It was on Tuesday nights. Lucky something. The bowling alley wasn't there by that at that point, but it was there was a Tuesday night spot that I went to, which was my very first spot, which is where I met Shaka, who is a really good friend of mine.
Yeah, I've had them on the
Um,
show.
and then there was the place on the water. Um, I don't know if it's still open, but I think it is. But like it's on the river. Dang, I can't remember. I think that was like a Friday night. So those were the two places. Oh, and then there was Habana Cafe Habana or something like that, and that was in Adams Morgan.
Okay, okay. Let me ask you this real quick then. I talked to a lot of different dancers. I'm very curious to hear from you. You said you never went to classes, so how do you think? Would you recommend that style of learning? Do you recommend that for someone else? And I guess if you could do it again, would you still go about it that way? Just going to socials to learn?
Um, I'm a very non like other people person. So I would not necessarily tell people to do what I did because my motivation was completely different. You know, like I was going because I was driven by wanting to listen to that music. The dancing was a way to express what I was feeling. So it being like technical or like, oh, I need to know how to do it right, or there's this thing. It wasn't like that wasn't like where I was with it. And then so this is kind of getting into like my own, like my personality, idiosyncrasies and things like that. Like I had to do it in a class way, I wouldn't have done it because I wasn't confident enough, like in something that was new for me to do it that way. Like my self-esteem just would not have handled it. So I needed to go in a way where it was just like free and there was like no, like, there weren't any rules. It was just like to be doing what I was feeling. And I was wild. I was so wild. Like if you ever asked like Shaka, like, oh, remember when Leah first started dancing? He'd be like, oh my gosh, she was just all over the place. Cause I was feeling it. I was like, yeah, I was like, dancing salsa. And it was like, I mean, the word salsa it was just like, I'm dancing to this music and I'm feeling it. And oh my God, it feels so great. That's just, I was there. And I was that girl. I was that wild chick out there whipping her hair around and just being, and you have to remember, like every other place in my life, I was very strict because I was an engineer, and at that time I was doing research. So this was like my freedom, so that's why I wouldn't necessarily say for someone to do it that way unless that is what it is for them. Because now, of course, looking back, my perspective is very different, but that's because I am a technically trained dancer at this point. And when I joined the dance company, that's when it changed for me, because then it became something I was trying to master, and it became something where it's like, oh, okay, so now more than just trying to express myself, I'm trying to express myself within this format, so I'm trying to take the rules or the structure of this format and be as be as expressive as I can within it. So I'm going to use these shapes and these forms to like really to like get across what I'm feeling, as opposed to it just being like, ah, you know, now it's like, oh, I do this round shape, and how round can I make it to also impart what I'm feeling, you know, those kind of things. So it really, I would say it really would just kind of depend on where that person is coming from with it, because now I I really appreciate having technique. You know, and I'll be perfectly honest, it really bothers me when people don't have technique. You know, so you know, but then I everybody's motivation is different. You know,
Yeah,
so.
definitely. I want to ask you this, and I'm very curious to hear about it. I'm very curious to hear about your beginner stage in learning salsa. What was that like for you?
Well, you again, it didn't become something that was like where I was like actively trying to master it until I joined the dance company, until I joined the Sky Caribe. So that was like, man, that was like, I had been dancing. So I joined the Sky Caribe in maybe like 2004, 3, something like that. And I had been dancing since 1999. So when I was learning, like when Shaka was teaching me the steps, like I mean, it was just free form. And if he had been like, "Hey, come to my class," I'd have been like, "Whatever, I'm not going to any classes. Like I'm here. I want to dance. I just want to feel this music. I'm not going to go to a class." He wasn't at that point where he was really teaching anyway. This was early on. We were all just club kids, right? So, but when he was showing it to me in the club, like, oh, okay, this is it, and this is how you get. It was like I wanted to know it, and I wanted to know it enough to be able to like catch it, know what was happening. And so for me, it developed very organically, where it was like, oh, okay, well, I want to learn a little bit more. Okay, well, I want to learn a little bit more because, ooh, that felt fun. Oh, I want to be able to like, you know what this turn feels like, or catch this, you know what I mean? So it developed in that way, where it was like, because I wanted to be able to like express myself better, I wanted to learn a little bit more to do that, you know.
I get you. Where was, I don't know how you even pronounce that. Sky Caribe, was that in DC or was that somewhere else?
Descarga Caribe, yes. Yeah,
That
so
was
you
it.
should do your research on Descarga Caribe. Descarga
I need to do my research. You said.
Yes, you should. I'm just saying uh it's a very distinct part of salsa history in the United States. That
Okay.
dance team, our dance
So,
team, because we were the first. I don't want to say the first. People will probably argue with me on that, but we were one of the first, if not the first, dance team out of Chicago to gain national and international notoriety. And we were just really lucky. Like Sekou just brought a really awesome team of people together. That are you familiar with Sekou McMiller?
that name sounds familiar, but I can't put a finger on it.
Wow, that is amazing that we are that old. That my generation of salsa is that old that you would not even like really know who Sekou is.
I
Because
mean,
he was like, hey, I mean, like this is salsa history. This is like salsa history in the United States in terms of like who in the dance world, of course, like dancers outside of New York, you know, dancers that were well known, well respected, um, you know, traveled all over, just like the teams in New York. Descarga and Sekou and our team, we were one of those teams. But so I joined Descarga Caribe in Chicago, so it's a Chicago team, and Sekou was just starting it. Like I said, in 2003, 2004, something like that. It might have been even 2002. It might have been earlier than that. I think it was 2003 though. He was just forming it, and because we had a mutual friend, I was one of the only people that knew how to dance on two in Chicago. He was starting an on two dance team. He just asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. And up until then, dancing was like my fun thing. It was like my release. So I really had to think a lot about it because I knew that I would become a perfectionist with it, because I become a perfectionist with anything that like I'm doing for real, for real. So I knew that like, okay, I'm about to like, I'm gonna lose a little bit of the joy because I'm gonna become like, you know, like hardcore about it. You know, I just know my personality. But it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. You know, it was truly, I mean, like So I grew into my core of who I am at Howard. I grew into an adult woman through salsa and through my life with this guy Caribe. Like I really like became an adult and then really got a really strong understanding of what my femininity was. You know, like what it wasn't, what I wanted it to be, how I felt about it. Because salsa does that. So salsa gives you that opportunity as a woman to like really dive deep into that if you're paying attention. You know.
Real quick, I think this Mr. Sekou would be a wonderful guest. What is his last name again? Sekou.
McMiller. That's just an amazement to me that you don't know who he is. It's like, wow, so we are so old. Oh my gosh, we're like kind
I
of
don't know if it's old. It's just hey, wait, real quick. How do you is it SEKU? Is that how you spell it?
Sekou.
I'm definitely looking him up. I mean, I don't know if it's like old. It's just I've been dancing salsa since I was 21, so I was 8 years ago. So
Hmm.
about 2011, 2012 maybe. Um,
But that makes us old. We were performing and like traveling. Our heyday was like 2005 or 2004 to 2006 or 7. You know, so like, and I mean, we were old at that time. We were seasoned. We were like, you know, like we like all the people that are traveling right now, and it's like, oh, you know, they're at all the congresses and stuff like that. That was us, you know.
okay.
So it's like, so that's why it's wild to be like, dang, you don't know who Sekou is? At least Sekou. Dang, I mean, you might not know my name, but you don't know Sekou? You know? It's like, you don't know this guy Caribe? You never even heard of
Do you? I don't honestly. I know Shaka Brown had him on the show. That's the big homie. Do you know Carlos Senta?
it? Yeah, but see, Carlos Cinta
That's my
wasn't, but it's bachata, and he was not traveling, performing like at that time. So he's somebody that's in your era.
okay. Okay, I say Carlos is the big homie. I've had him on the show too. I really like that guy. Um, so I guess let's talk about your time on that performance team. There, you said it kind of matured you and transformed you. Let me ask you this, and I want to word it in this way. What benefits did you gain or learn from that performance team, and could you word it in a sense for someone if they're thinking about if they're contemplating joining a performance team?
Hmm. That's a very big question because it completely depends on what angle you're trying to answer that question or even ask that question from. So, if we're talking about technical dancing, just dancing, joining a performance team will absolutely improve your dancing. It's a way to access like a higher level of dancing because one is repetition, two, you are learning uh, hopefully, if you're on a team where you have a really good director that is technically sound, you're going to be learning how you're supposed to be executing things and why. You know, so sometimes there is always the fear that like performance teams will like they can only perform and they can't social dance. That's unfortunate, but that ideally that's not ideally your team is teaching you how to dance and how to dance really well. You know, so on but even if you're part of a team like that, like you're still going to learn, you're still going to become a more technically sound dancer. Even if it's just more technically sound in that particular style, you're going to become a more technically sound dancer if you have a good director. Most directors are on some level like some level competent at some level.
You would hope so, but I get you saying.
Yeah. Now emotionally, oh my gosh, it's a whole other you know, game because for us, for instance, like, and this probably happens in most teams. Actually, I know it does. Those people become your family. You know, if it's a really close team and you're traveling and you're performing, they become like family. So all of the same family dynamics that happen in regular families happen in team families, but in closer proximity because you are actually with these people all the time and you are actually trying to create something with these people. So you can either like fall apart and crack under that pressure and not learn how to like handle interpersonal relationships, Or you can grow, like, you know, what is it called? Like you're in the fire, you're getting burnt up, your feelings get hurt, but you learn how to grow through those, you know, or the pressure, like, you know, you're getting like pushed and pushed and pushed and, you know, and you learn how to transmute and transform these experiences so that you're now responding in better ways, and you're not just reacting, you are actually choosing your responses. And I feel like that's what the team dynamic, it gives you the opportunity to do that, because you're not going to be able to control at all, any way, shape, or form, how 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 people are, you know, like whatever stuff they're working with. So you have to learn how to not be reactive to everything other people are working with and working through. And of course, there's also the point, like, hopefully you're on a team where everybody respects each other and is at least trying to be respectful. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you're on teams where it's like, I got to step out of this dynamic because as a person I'm being disrespected or in harm, or it's you know, like on some level it's not working for me as a person, even though from a technical point of view, from a purely dance point of view, it's so good for me, you know. So but you learn all, you have the opportunity to learn all those things in the team dynamic.
I definitely understand that, and I'll say I was a part of a dance team as well. I don't. Do you know a lady by the name of Jalissa Cruz?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I was part of her dance team for a little bit, and
Not,
yeah, and I agree with you said as far as like the technical aspect, definitely improved. From like where I began as a dancer to where I was after that team, I was so much better. So I definitely understand that. I just realized that I was not a fan of performing, but I
mm-hmm.
definitely understand well everything you just said. um, so yeah, so you know you joined that dance team, and I guess I'm very curious. Are you still a chemical engineer at that time? Or like, you know, what's going on in your life at that time?
Oh yeah, I was still a chemical engineer. I was still I think when I moved back home to Chicago, I was part of it. Part of that time I was doing my PhD, and then I came out of the PhD program, and then I was working as a uh, program coordinator at the Garfield Park Conservatory. So I had my whole life going on, you know, while like my dance career was going on. It was just like these two things that were happening.
Okay, sure enough, sure enough. I definitely understand. Um, Let me ask you this then, real quick. I'm very curious to hear. Um, you've been dancing since 1999, which is, you know, at this point over 20 years, right? It
Crazy, it's crazy.
is very crazy. I'm very curious to hear from you. What are some things that you've learned from dancing that you're able to translate to your everyday life?
That's an awesome question for me specifically, because I'm always talking about how salsa is a microcosm of the macrocosm of your life, you know? So the issues that you have personally, you're going to actually see them in your dance life and how you interact with people in your dance life. So for me, salsa has absolutely been that playground. So, but for me, it kind of worked the opposite way, I guess, in the sense that I was able to. So most of my stuff, well, I won't say most of it. A lot of it has been interpersonal. Of course, like there's the aspect of, you know, discipline and all that kind of stuff. But to me, the most impactful nuggets have all been interpersonal. So and it's just been, it's unique to me, you know, that like just learning how many things are not personal. Like I look back and how I interacted with in certain circles and groups of people, and realizing how I was taking things personally when they weren't personal. It was just about like group dynamics and bigger themes that were going on, and how me taking things in a personal way and not realizing that I was taking it personally, how that shaped how my career developed, you know, and my interactions with people. So so that and that's a real, that's like a whole other, like that would be a podcast in itself, you know, to really talk about that. But I mean, I really do feel like the like I have this idea to do this to kind of do this special project called self-care for salseros, because in so many ways, like there's the opportunity for us to like examine our motivations and how we respond to things, because the salsa community gives you so many things to respond to. And a lot of times you don't realize that you're like knee jerk reaction responding, as opposed to like, oh, let me think about what this brought up for me, and then think about how I want to actually like operate in this situation. You know, a lot of times we're just knee jerk reacting to stuff, and just salsa gives you a lot of stuff to knee jerk react to. You know, so there's that. And then of course like the discipline part. But I've never had a problem with discipline. Like if it's something I want, I'm gonna go get it. You know, and I'm gonna like drive myself harder than anyone else to get it. You know, so in that sense, and that's why the perfectionist thing, I really had to I really had to make that decision when I started dancing, if I really wanted to go professional, because I knew that that would, you know, that would be my default. But even in that, I mean, that's something that I've learned too, is that especially because we were performing and we were always kind of like, you I'll say it like this. That I apologize, this is going to be long-winded. It's already long-winded. But that era of dancing, no one wanted to be like each other, right? So we were always trying to be different, yet we were also comparing ourselves to each other. And so what I had to realize in hindsight was that you that your sense of like okayness, and I'm a good dancer, or I'm a worthy dancer, has to come from inside. Like that has to be, you have to have your own sense of that, because the opinions of others are always going to vary, you know, because you're always going to have somebody that like they just gravitate towards this style more than they do that. They just want this more than they do that. Like there's something like, you know, I'm a black girl. My hair doesn't shake. You know, it doesn't do all that, right? You know, my skin is brown. You know, so um, especially back then, there were not a lot of like black women dancing salsa, especially not black women with natural hair. And I've had natural hair since like 1994. You know, so like I was kind of an anomaly, and so um, I had to become okay with that once I realized it was a thing. Like, cause I didn't realize it was a thing, because I was just a late bloomer to like awareness with that kind of stuff. But once I realized it was a thing, that I was like abnormal, and that there were some opportunities that I just wasn't gonna get, or that I would have to fight harder for, um, I had to just be okay with that. Like, okay, some people are gonna like the girl with the hair that whips around. Some people are gonna like the girl with the natural hair, you know, and like well, I can't do anything about that. Like I have to be okay with what I offer and who I am and what I'm doing, you know? So, and I've never been traditionally like, you know, oh, I'm gonna like roll my hips and do all this sexy. So, like my sexiness is not the traditional sense of like, you know, like my sexiness is not a Señores Caluceres video, you know, where the girl is like, oh, yeah, like that. Mine is very different, but I had to become okay with that. I had to be like, you know what? I'm never gonna be Grisel Ponce. I'm never gonna like come off like that. I'm never gonna like have that. At least myself, at least in my vision, I'm never gonna come off like that. I'm never gonna be able to. So why even try? Why not be okay with who Leah is, you know, and give Leah, you know? So though I had to kind of come to those like, and so that's what I mean about like salsa giving you the opportunity to like really, really grow in these ways, because you are hit up against this stuff, and you're like hit up against it, and then not in any kind of like intellectual like, oh, what do you think about this? It's like at a party or at a congress, and you're like, dang, none of these girls have on clothes, like they barely have on any clothes, and I got on like jeans and a t-shirt. What the hell? When did I miss the memo that she's supposed to wear like a midriff and a, you know, and booty shorts? I didn't know. You know, so you know, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't wear any makeup, and these girls are like made up. What the hell? I just got on lipstick and chapstick. You know what I mean? It's like, all these little things, you're hit up against it, like while you're trying to enjoy yourself and be in this thing that's like fun, but then like, oh my gosh, is it really fun anymore? And so yeah, so it just gives you all those opportunities if you are paying attention and if you allow yourself to be introspective about it.
Let me ask you this then real quick. I'm very curious to hear from you. Like I said, you have, at this point over 20 years experience. I'm very curious to hear from you from when you first started to, to today. Um, can you put into words how the dance community has changed, if it has changed at all?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's changed immensely. Probably the biggest thing that's changed, and because I just happened to run into Sekou this Christmas break, which is crazy and wonderful. But probably the biggest thing that's changed, and I think it is a factor of our like social media and things like that, is that everybody wants to look the same, or it seems like everybody wants to look the same. And so it's not just about like developing good technique, but it's about like actually mimicking styles, So there isn't a lot of like, well, I feel like there isn't a lot of like appreciation of individuality. So, well, I don't know. I can't say that there is an appreciation of it, but what I can say is that everyone who has lots of accolades right now all look the same, you know? So, and not at all taking any away their individuality, but their style is the same. And like you could like the only thing that's different is their body types. So that's changed for sure. Whereas like back, goodness gracious, I'll say 15 years ago, everybody was trying to do different kinds of routines. Like they were trying to like blow your mind, like, oh, I'm gonna do a routine and it's gonna be a story about this person on the moon, and we're gonna be like moonbeams, and then like, folks were just like trying to be like really creative, still within the format of salsa, but very creative. Whereas now it's like everybody's like, I just want to do a badass, like, traditional mambo routine that looks just like this one that I saw last year, and I'm trying to like perfect that style. And like, if we get it exactly right, if we do it the little don't just like those other people did, yo, that's it. That's where we made it, and so like the goals just seem very different. So, and I found myself caught up in it too. Like, dang, I didn't do my arm styling like her. But I'm like, Leah, you do your arm styling like you. And yes, there is a space for growth all the time. Like, because I want to be able to do all those styles. I want to be able to like, because that's growth, that's growth as a dancer. That's like pushing yourself so that you are, because within those styles is technique, right? Like those styles, a lot of the styles come out of like certain people's techniques, but I don't want to just stop there. I don't want to just like, okay, boom, I'm good. I don't have to like now make it my own. I can just go off and do that now. So I've found like it's a constant thing of like, and right now I don't think that's very it's not respected or appreciated. So if you are someone that's just like trying to continue to do your own thing, you have to make peace with the fact that you're maybe not going to be as popular as like get as many students, because I mean the masses are group led, the masses are mob led, the masses are just like, oh, she got a video, I'm trying to be like her, he got 20,000 likes on his video, I'm trying to be like him, what I mean, like the masses are, and you can look at that at every scene, and because I'm in a small place, a small town, I can tell you, I can vouch for it, people are led by masses, people are just led by mob behavior because they don't have their own exposure, they don't have their own experience, so we could talk about that too. It's just like, that's a whole nother podcast, but but yeah, so that to me has been the change that I've seen, and I think it's gonna come back around, it's gonna flow.
Real quick, let me ask you this. You kind of said, growth is something that, I guess that you're always pursuing, something that you should be pursuing. For, let's say like this hypothetical situation, say we have two dancers and they are of the same skill level. I guess what makes a great dancer great and separates them from a good dancer. Is it that growth to find individuality, or is it,
Um, I think it's a slippery slope to say like for me to be able to judge great, and good. Um, I would say what makes a dancer maybe memorable to other people would be their individuality, like how they are expressing, the fact that you can see it is them expressing what they're expressing, especially if the skill level is the same. Like if the skill level is the same, the person that is in it is like that is completely present and completely like living that moment is probably the person that you're going to remember.
I understand that. And I definitely agree with that. And I understand that. Um, so we kind of got off a little tangent. How did you end up in Little Rock? How did that come about?
So that is a question of the ages. People are always asking me that. But my family is from here. So I moved back to Little Rock. The official reason was that my little sister, I have two younger sisters. So the one that's right underneath me, she was going into the military. So she had two little ones at the time. And so that they didn't have to move out of the house, she didn't have to lose the house, that kind of stuff. I just moved back here to keep them while she was in boot camp. So that's the official reason. The other reason too was just like I had done so many moves for dancing and had sacrificed so much that I just said I need to stop doing that and I just need to settle someplace. And when you settle someplace, oftentimes you settle at home. And my mom was here. Most of my family had moved back here by that time, and so like I was like, okay, yep, I'll go to Little Rock. So
Okay, sure enough. So, for myself and others who have never been to Little Rock, what is that dance community like?
it's like most dance communities, most small dance communities. They're very fascinated with bachata right now. Um, there's a small group of people that really enjoy learning how to dance well. You know, there there's a salsa club. We have a devoted salsa club. So there's a Tuesday night and a Friday night. And it's a scene. It hasn't developed a lot in the past 10 or like well, I guess I've been here 11 years. Unfortunately, we do have better dancers here, but it's still just a handful. It's been difficult for me as just a follow to like really like influence the scene. Like you like I influence the follows in the scene a lot. I've definitely learned to lead, and so like I have a level of competence with leading so that I can teach someone to lead and I can teach like beginner intermediate leading. But if there was and when there have been really strong leads here, that's when the leads have really like jumped up the levels. But I mean, like, you know what? And I can just be perfectly honest because I've been in the scene for forever and I'm no longer like attached to like, whatever. If nobody showed up my classes tomorrow, fine, I'll do something else. So I'll be perfectly honest. Like, it is the classic situation where people think they are further along than they are. So they don't want to get better. Like there's like two people that want to get better. You know what I mean? The girls typically want to get better than the guys do. So the girls typically are like always trying to look for other opportunities to like get better as a dancer. The guys, as long as they can like find some girl that's gonna like be mesmerized by their whack, unskillful turn, they're okay. Like, they're fine. So it is what it is. It is what it is. And like I said, I don't have the pool as a follow or as a female to like really influence them in the way that I would like to. Like when I go out dancing, we have there's a few people I have great dances with. I used to bring people in a lot and I kind of stopped doing that. And I'm thinking about doing that more because that helps increase the level. But, it is what it is.
I understand. I definitely understand that. I guess. Where can I go from here? I'm very curious. Are there ways to prevent that from happening in someone's own dance community? And what I mean is that stagnation. Is there anything that you could think of to maybe help prevent this?
What I have seen that works and what worked here is if you don't like like for instance, in my situation where like I'm not motivated to become a badass lead, you know, like I would have to really motivate myself to become a badass lead. So if you're not in that situation, bringing other people in, and if you could actually like have somebody, like there have been scenes that have developed beautifully by having somebody come in on a regular basis. Like they're like, okay, this is going to be our situation once a month, you know, such as going to come in. And that, because people need to be inspired. That's the thing. You know, they need to like see something to aspire to. And the reason why I think bachata is so popular right now, especially here in Little Rock, is because one, it's easier,
It's
you know.
easier.
Yeah. Two, it's like it's super sensationalistic, especially bachata right now, you know, and so it looks like, oh my gosh, there's all this feeling and emotion. And then three, I think there's a lot of lonely people in the world right now. I think it's a lot of people who are like void of human touch and human connection and are working through like their depression and anxiety issues. And bachata gives them an opportunity to be really close, to get fake, you know, like connection, fake,
Admiration. Okay.
yeah, fake admiration, fake. And when you're watching, like, and because of social media, you're watching the bachata dancers, like, it looks like, okay, this is something I could do. Like, if you're watching, like, a badass salsa couple, it's just like, dude. And if you're not a dancer, you're just like, I mean, that's amazing, but I
Right.
can't see the steps to get there, right? But if you're watching a badass bachata couple, unfortunately, bachata looks, especially badass bachata couples, it looks way easier than it actually is. You know,
Is that just because the great ones make it look easy?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that it because it's moves that we associate with sexiness. So rolls, we associate rolls with sexiness. We associate slow movement with sexiness. Associate close embraces with sexiness. So you know that's the cornerstone of like sensual bachata right now, right? Which is the one that's the most popular, which is the one that people are like, oh my god, I love it so much. It's like it's sensual bachata. They're not like, oh my god, I love Dominican bachata so much. I love all the footwork because that's hard, right? But sensual bachata, it just looks like it's a bunch of body rolls and dips and everything like that. And we associate that as a culture with sexiness. So it looks like something I could do. Like, oh, I can make a girl do that. Yeah, because all I got to do is just do that, you know? So I think it's a combination. I think it's of course, the great ones are obviously they make it look easy, but the great salsa dancers make it look easy. Like they're not looking like they're like, oh, I gotta, you know, I mean, you know, they're smiling and it's light and it's happy and everything like that. I'm not talking about people who are doing tricks and stuff, just people that are having a badass salsa dance, like a badass social dance. They make it look easy, but it's what we as a culture like think is easy, you know, and think is when you're looking at a
Like attainable.
yeah, attainable. Like when you're looking at a great salsa dance, you're more so looking at the skill level of like in the connection and like, oh my gosh, they're just like flowing. When you're looking at a badass bachata dance, you're looking at them being sexual with each other. You know, what we perceive as sexual with each other. You see what I mean?
I mean, I definitely do, and I think that's the appeal of sensual right now. I definitely understand that.
Yeah. So I think that's
Um,
what it is. I think it's just
is let me ask you this thing. I might be out of the loop. I do know that bachata is blowing up. Is sensual blowing up more so than tradition now, or
um
just bachata? Some people are gonna try and flame you just bachata.
well I actually feel like what's happening is that bachata traditional bachata, Dominican bachata, you know, is actually becoming more popular. Is like it's starting to like eclipse or just become as popular. People are realizing that it is a thing. Like that this sensual bachata that they're used to seeing is actually not really bachata. It's more like a fusion, and it's a you know it's a thing in and of itself. But that there's also like traditional bachata as it's danced like in most places that are not like you know inundated with R&B, you know, R&B bachata that they dance it in this other way. Because I think sensual bachata is the bachata that has been the most popular for like ever. I feel like you know it's become more because I feel like you know when because you know Island Touch they kind of began the bachata craze in a lot of ways, and then Danielle and Desiree like began the sensual bachata craze. But even though like Island Touch was not really dancing sensual. It was still they weren't dancing like this is my homeboy bachata, you know, like oh I'm dancing with my friend. It was like this is my mate. I'm in love with this person. Like, so even if we're doing a lot of footwork, it's like, footwork, it's like into each other footwork. So it was still like very sexual, very sensual, even if it wasn't like sensual in what we consider sensual now. You know what I'm saying?
I think so. I would give you pushback. I don't know if Central has always been popular, but I get what you're saying.
I feel like it has been. I mean, I feel like it
Okay.
has. Well, I mean, okay. I feel like it has definitely like gained popularity in the past.
Recently, because isn't Central Bachata? When I think of Central Bachata, I see a whole bunch of Brazilian Zouk inspiration, in my opinion.
Oh no, no. So then we're not thinking of the same thing. That to me
Okay.
is new. That is that's a new addition. The Zouk
Okay.
edition, Central Bachata is a new addition. So
Okay.
and so I'm thinking you're talking about like all the roles where the ladies like doing like the the L roll and all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
So that is kind of like a next iteration of Central Bachata, because Central Bachata maybe 5 years ago, even more so, was like the dips, the close embrace, the like just the like that is what was considered Central Bachata like maybe 5 years ago. The Zouk influence is just like a new thing with it, because people weren't really doing all the Zouk influence with Central Bachata, but they were not doing Dominican Bachata. They were not doing like open footwork and all that kind of stuff. They were doing turns and all that kind of stuff.
Let me ask you this real quick. What is the Brazilian Zouk and Kizomba scene like in Little Rock, Arkansas?
And Little Rock is very it's very small. Like there's no one that really, well, there are people that dance it, and there are people who've taught classes. I've brought a few instructors in, not for Zouk but for Kizomba. There is a more prominent scene in Fayetteville, which is like 3 hours from here. They are really in love with Kizomba, and I'm sure they've probably had some Zouk instructors up there as well. And I think they have a few instructors there now that teach it.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Now, Fayetteville, that's North Carolina or that's Arkansas?
No, Fayetteville's Arkansas. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Excuse
there's
me.
a
All right.
Fayetteville in North Carolina, but this is Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Okay. I was like, okay, for sure. I get you. Um, I get you. So, hmm. I guess we'll jump into this then. For for a dancer who feels like they're stuck in a beginner's rut, and they're not progressing, what words of wisdom or advice could you give them to help them with that situation?
Mm. So I would say I probably would like separate it between lead and follow, like whichever roles that they're wanting to play. So if they're beginner stage, that if they're not taking classes, absolutely get in some classes, take some classes. Like if they feel like they're not progressing, then they definitely need to get in classes. If they are not trying to take classes as a follow, or actually I guess the advice would be the same. They just need to dance with higher level dancers. Like, so finding a friend, if lead or follow, that will give you feedback and that won't back lead or won't allow you, that won't like make it up for you. So they can either go that route or they can get in classes. You can always join a dance team. I really don't think, especially if you're in a beginner's rut, it won't make sense to do like YouTube videos or things like that, because you need to be able to, you need feedback. You need to get the feedback.
And real quick, so you say what you just said. What if they're maybe in a scene or community very similar to Little Rock where there is not much inspiration or I guess maybe higher talent level? What can they do in those instances?
So if they are wanting to just focus on salsa, then I would say, or the Latin dances, then I would say, then it's important to like either try to travel. If you can't travel, then you can turn to online classes. I think online classes are a really powerful tool. What I would say is, if you can get with someone and do the online classes, because you want to be able to give each other feedback. Again, because it's a partner dance, you want to be able to get that feedback of like, okay, what does this feel like? Does it feel like you know what I was asking for? Did it feel like I was too heavy? Did it feel like, so you want to be able to like kind of have that open dialogue, which is what you get when you join a dance team. You get that feedback, even if it's within just the choreography. So I would say that if they are kind of like, if they're just like, oh, I just am trying to become a better dancer, then I would say like jump into some other type of dance class in your area. Because like ballet classes are going to help you with salsa, jazz classes are for sure going to help you with salsa. Probably those two would be the ones that will help you with your salsa technique. Other dance classes will just help you with like conditioning your body. But that's what I would say. Like either, I mean, and you can do your own practice. It's not saying that you cannot do your own practice, but I will say that like if you are coming from ground zero, feedback is really important, because you can just develop a bunch of bad habits and just think you are like just killing it, and then you get out there and you can't dance with anybody. So it's just try to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's super duper important. I understand that. Let me ask you, I guess, the continuation to that question. For someone who is an intermediate and they want to get to that advanced level, what does it take for them?
Oh gosh, you gotta get in. You probably need to get in on a choreography team or something, or you have to like, because you need. I mean, again, it's just to me, it's the same level. You still need the feedback, but you need to be dancing on a level that you can you that you can be challenged, that you can be like, kind of like step up the game. So I would say try to travel to take private lessons and to dance with other people in other places, so that you can like experience, especially lead and follow, because you want to be able to recognize what's being asked of you in different ways. So like like a turn, you as a follow, you want to be able to like recognize the request for a turn and what type of turn, even if it comes in slightly different ways. And as a lead, you want to be able to ask for a turn, even if you have to ask for it in different ways, slightly different ways, nuanced ways, like, okay, I know, like, and I mean, it can get even as deep as like, oh, I know girls on the West Coast, they're used to this kind of lead. Girls on the East Coast are used to this kind of lead. You know what I mean? Like girls in Chicago dance like this, girls in Texas dance like this. Like there are regional like style favors, so like even being able to like just recognize that kind of stuff, so that you're really conscious, like you're very much in your body and aware of what you're asking your body to do, and aware of how your body's responding to that.
I understand you. Um, Let me ask you this then. When I say the word musicality, what does that mean to you?
I mean, to me, it's how I dance. I mean, it's how I understand what I'm trying to do as a dancer. So I'm trying to express. I want. Okay, if I'm performing, I want the people to see the music in my movement and in my expression. If I'm just social dancing, then I'm just expressing exactly what I'm feeling in the music.
And so, real quick, the follow up. Do you know any ways that one can improve their musicality?
Yeah, I think you got to just listen to the music, really listening to the music, really like, and just kind of like almost like easing up on like dancing to the music and actually listening to the music, so that you begin to hear the nuances and you hear the differences, because you can hear the phrasing in songs. Like you can pretty much, like, if you start listening to enough salsa songs, you know what's happening next. You know what the phrasing is going to be. You know when the break is coming. You know when the clave is going to be stronger. And I mean, you can begin to feel that, and so that you want that to get in your body, because that is what's going to move your body to it. So I feel like musicality classes that really focus on the different rhythms, are really powerful, because, and they're not necessarily focusing on the dancing, they're just focusing on developing your ear. I feel like those are really powerful. There are some apps. There's like Salsa Rhythms app that allows you to break down and listen to each instrument.
Yeah,
Um,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, like things like that are really powerful, especially if you don't have a musical background and you're not used to like hearing music in pieces. Like you're not used to being able to you hear this whole song and you can hear the tumbao or you can hear the guitar. Like you're not used to like, your ear like operating that way.
Okay, okay. Um, and real quick, let me ask you this then. Can you give me one tip that can make anyone a better dancer immediately?
Hmm, a better dancer. Um, oh gosh, but it's just better. It depends on what your definition of better is. A more technically sound dancer would be a different answer than a
You
dancer that
can
you
answer this question however you want.
um let's see. One tip that would make someone a better dancer. So my first thought would be, and they both of them revolve around the same thing, so this must be the answer, is just to relax. Just to relax. Just to be in the moment, because I feel like if in the moment you are enjoying that moment, and then if you're enjoying that moment, you're transferring that to someone else. Now, of course, and that is like instantaneous. So instantaneously turns you into a better dancer. In that moment. Now, there's tons of things you can do to express yourself better as a dancer and to make it more fun for your partner, and that comes from actually learning the dance and learning the techniques. But in the instant, I really think it's just relaxing into the moment.
I 100% agree with that. And when you say that, what I hear is being present during the dance and not just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Which I, so I definitely understand and agree with that. Um,
Great.
all right. So I don't want to. I would be upset if I didn't ask you about a green witch. If we can speak on that real quick, and also let's talk about your you being a transformation and wellness mentor. Can we speak on all that, please?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So my green witch path, it scares a lot of people because they're like, witch, even my mom is like, I don't like the word witch. I understand. It's like unfortunately the word witch has a lot of negative connotations. People have carried a lot of like, negative thoughts about it, and the culture at large has not helped. But really my understanding of the word witch, of what it means to me, is just a woman that is in tune with the natural laws and with using the natural laws um, purposefully and intentionally. So, as a green witch, so my green witch path, it's basically like a souped up herbalist. You can think of it that way. So, an herbalist that like I believe that there is energy and spirit in everything, right? And I have a really keen connection with plant medicine and with plant magic. And plant magic is really just using your intention behind what you're doing. So it's more than just like, oh, I'm going to take this herb and hopefully it'll help me make me feel better. It's like putting intent behind that desire. And our minds are like our minds create our realities. So if you are intentionally using the power of your mind, and then you're using your physical world as well, because we're physically here, like obviously we're on the planet for a purpose. So if you're using all of your senses to kind of create the reality that you want to bring about, it's just such a more powerful experience, and such a more powerful outcome that you'll get. So a green witch is really someone who uses plant medicine to bring about transformation. So as a transformation and wellness mentor, I have done so much personal work on myself, and people who, and like I was talking a little bit about like how much I've changed through my dance career. People who knew me at the very beginning of my dance career and who know me now, they will be able to tell you, my gosh, Leah has changed so much. Like her core of who she is the same, but like just how she's grown from like a completely paranoid, extra depressed, really self-conscious, extra anxious, overly sensitive, dramatic person into a calmer version of that person has been like pretty astounding. So because I've been able to do that type of transformation for myself through a lot of work, and a lot of introspection and self reflection and resilience. So that's why I said like my superpower is resilience. Um, I've been able to look back on how I've done those things. And so in my teaching and my writing and my speaking, I'm always talking about the opportunities for transformation. And wellness has been a huge part of that for me because I've always been devoted to a natural lifestyle. I've seen the difference that a natural lifestyle can make. Um, Thinking of things in a holistic way as opposed to just like, separate and unrelated really can help to create meaning in your life and to create the kind of changes that you want to see. So the wellness aspect fits in there because that has been the key to a lot of the transformation. So as a mentor, I help people make those changes in their lives, lots of different ways.
Okay. Real quick, let me ask you this. Are you able to incorporate any of that into your dancing at all? Is that possible for you?
Yeah, I mean, well, because for me, it's how I live my life. So it all just like goes all together. In the past couple of years, I've been more bold about speaking about all of that in all these different places. So like in my dance work, for instance, 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? A year ago, we did a self-care retreat. Like I did a retreat that was like self-love through dancing. And it was a lady styling retreat, it was a ladies workshop. But we did yoga, we did like meditation. Then, of course, we learned how to dance. We did like hardcore dance training. But we kind of set the backdrop of it of like, this is an opportunity for you to like really spend some time with yourself, to really like, care for yourself and love yourself through this exercise, through the exercise of dance. So, and I'm always talking about the joy points and accessing joy through dance. So it's what I've always been doing, and I've just become more vocal about it, more aware of it first, and then more vocal.
Okay. Okay, sure enough. I understand that. Um, I think at this point, Ms. Lee, I really want to, thank you for taking time out today to talk to me.
You're so welcome. Thank you for like this really like awesome introspective conversation. I had no idea what you were gonna ask, and they're like perfect questions because they're like the stuff that I'm thinking about like currently in my own life. So I just love how it like just like pulled it all together for me. So thank
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's really perfect. Real quick, let me ask you this. What are some of the upcoming events that you have going on in your life, if anything, that you want to
you. Yeah.
mention?
Um, so big dance events, I don't really have too much going on. I've got like a dance class that's starting on the 18th. It's a beginner salsa class. I'm going to be doing it on 2, which is a big deal for Little Rock. And I'm starting a social here, so that's pretty fun. So we'll see how that goes. But other than that, I actually just came off of like some big events. Like I went to and performed at the danza event. I think I did tell you that, like some
Yeah,
danza
yeah, exactly.
2019
That's New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans.
folks up there. So that was amazing. That was really good. And I'm working on a solo right now. It's not ready. So I don't really like, so since it's not ready, I don't know what I'm shooting for. So hopefully I'll be out and about in the dance world again, probably like towards the end of the year, because I'll be done with the piece and then I can kind of reach out to people and kind of connect. But right now, so I run my life in 3-month cycles. So right now, this next 3 months is really about my makeup line. So I'm gonna like kind of do some local connecting and make some strides with my makeup line and kind of putting it out there. It's great for dancers, so I might try to work in some like connection with some of the dancers. And then the next 3 months after that, I'm gonna kind of get back to like my dance work.
Real quick, please plug your dance school.
It is Leah School of Latin Dance. It's here in Little Rock. The website is salsalittlerock.com. And I'm always available for private lessons, and I teach usually like two classes a cycle. So there's 6 weeks classes, and right now I have 2 going on, a kids class and an adults class.
Real quick, what are the times for these classes?
So the the kids class is Saturdays from 10 to 11, and it's at Miss Karen's Dance Studio, which is a studio here in Jacksonville, and then which is right outside of Little Rock. And then my beginners class, which is the adults class, is starts on January 18th, and that is from I think it's from 12:30 to 1:30, and it's on Saturdays. So the next 6 Saturdays, starting on the 18th.
Okay, cool. Just in case any Little Rock listeners are listening, shout
Yeah,
out.
come on out.
Hey, hey. Real quick, I would be upset if I didn't give you the opportunity to plug your makeup line. Is Move correct?
Yes, move makeup.
Hey,
Yes.
Move makeup, and then this is something that you were able to accomplish with your chemical engineering degree, or not? Or
Yeah, I definitely use my chemistry degree to create the makeup line and my aesthetics license. So aesthetics really quick is skincare. And I've always been like completely into holistic skincare. So the makeup line is sweat proof, but it's also natural. So I have very sensitive skin. I needed to wear something that I could last while I was dancing on stage, but wouldn't break my skin out. There were no options when I was first kind of starting to dance, so that's why I created it. And so it's really wonderful for like anybody that has an active lifestyle. That's what's so great for dancers because it's going to stay on your face while you sweat, and you still look amazing. You'll be sweating, so it's not going to stop you from sweating, but it's not going to sweat off with your sweat. So it's good stuff. And it's mymovemakeup.com. That's the website.
yeah, please plug it. Yeah. Real quick, how can people get in contact with you if they want to reach out to you?
So I am so easily findable on the internet. Like it's so easy to find me. Probably the easiest place to find me is at my own personal website, which is leahpatterson.com. That is kind of my portal for all of my things. That's probably the best place. Like you can reach out to me at info@leahpatterson.com and check out all this bazillion things that I'm doing at leahpatterson.com.
That is perfect. That is perfect. See, like I said, Miss Lee, I really want to thank you so much, for taking time out today to talk to me. I greatly appreciate that.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much. It was great to meet you, Terrence. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. So I guess I'll just ask you this real quick. Any last words you want to say to the people before we close this out?
I just want to say, I guess, again, like dance is a beautiful opportunity in so many ways to like really grow within yourself. Of course, you're going to grow technically and soundly, physically as a dancer, but there's so many beautiful opportunities to grow as a person and to take them, to not like allow the emotional side of the dance community to stop you from dancing, but instead stand up to it, to like turn it back on yourself and find a way to keep moving forward. I mean, it's because it's a beautiful opportunity. Like dancing, our community, our salsa community, salsa bachata community. I mean, there's so many things about it that can be so beautiful if you can get past the rest.
Okay. Now, I definitely understand that. I think that's the reason why we dance. Is because we enjoy it, because we like it. We know it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's why we do it. So I understand that.
Yeah. So don't let anything take your joy, you know?
I definitely understand that. I think that's a great way to wrap up this episode of the Two Lift podcast. I want to thank you again, Leah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Hey. So yeah, please enjoy the rest of your day, and I think that'll do it. So ciao.
Bye.
That's all it is. Hey everyone, if you made it this far all the way to the end of the video, I want to thank you so much. My overall goal with making these interviews and these episodes is to give a voice to dancers, to give them a platform to speak their story. So if this is of value to anyone, then that means the world to me. My overall goal is to give value to the dance community. So if you find no value in this, then I urge you to please let me know where I can improve on. I truly want to, just uh, give value and content to the dance community. So please let me know how I can improve, where I'm messing up, because to be 100% honest with you, I'm learning along the way as I do this. I truly am. So to be able to interact with the dance community, it means the world to me, because it gives me feedback and it lets me know what I'm doing right, where I can improve upon, what I'm doing wrong, which I feel like might maybe more important. So please, if you all could comment and just let me know what you think, it means the world to me, because that feedback just helps me improve. So please comment as well. Please like and subscribe. That means a lot as well. But I want to say thank you so much for just watching this, because it means the world to me. I want to take you on this journey of the Two Left Feet podcast. I'm very excited for it. So once again, thank you so much.